It is a painful decision made by NATO allies, but we need to make sure that this conflict ends. We have to avoid that it expands, escalates.
It's the one thing Ukraine wants most out of Western allies and the one thing we're unable or unwilling to provide, a no-fly zone over Ukraine. NATO's Secretary General says it's a step the alliance isn't ready to take.
We cannot operate a no-fly zone with all the Russian air defense systems intact. So no-fly zone will require massive attacks on Russian air defense systems. And it will require that we are ready to engage directly in confrontation with Russian planes.
Since the beginning of the war, Ukraine has struggled to break Russian air dominance. That control of the skies has meant Russian air forces have been able to attack both Ukrainian ground forces and civilian targets.
Just to request a no-fly zone is relatively easy to do, but it's meaningless unless you actually enforce it, unless you enforce it militarily. I mean, we should recall that a no-fly zone is essentially means patrolling Ukrainian airspace 24/7. This requires a lot of resources.
Benjamin Zyla is a former NATO Defense College fellow. He explains that it's not as if NATO has plans for a no-fly zone sitting in a desk somewhere. Even if NATO wanted to establish one, it would need to determine who can contribute planes and pilots, where they would take off and refuel from, and rules of engagement.
Are NATO fighter jets able and allowed to shoot down Russian fighter jets only over Ukrainian airspace, or also in the airspace of Belarus and potentially even Russia? It's very complicated, it's very complex, and I don't think NATO is interested in engaging in this kind of escalation.
Underlining the point, Stoltenberg suggested NATO's top priority is ensuring the war doesn't get bigger, something a no-fly zone would not help.
This will significantly escalate the war, the fighting in Ukraine, but also, of course, risk a full-fledged war in Europe.
In Ottawa, Xiaoli Li, City News.